For this MediBang tutorial, we're going to go over some things that have been brought up a lot in the previous videos and comments section, such as accidentally closing windows or going more in depth with your selection tools, etc, etc, etc. And then we can go into some more tools and tricks that I didn't go over in our original MediBang video. So this tutorial will have slightly more advanced functions and slightly more advanced things, so I won't be going over every single basic that you need to know. So if you are new to MediBang, then I recommend checking out our first video first before you watch this one, or if you're more in depth with MediBang already, then you can continue to watch and stay tuned. First question that we always get is, what happens if I close one of my windows off by accident? Can I get it back? And the answer is yes. You can always get it back. It's super easy. All you have to do, so say if I accidentally close off the color window, all of these windows have little X's on them. Let's say that I close this color window off. I'm like, oh no, what do? I can't get my colors back. How will I ever see my colors again? Don't freak out. It's really easy. So up at the top on here, you'll see a button that says window. You just click on that and find whichever window that you have closed off. So that's the color window. Just click on that and it should come back. You can even close off windows that you don't need up at the top. So let's say I don't need my brush size window. I can close that off and now it's gone. And I can bring it back if I want it. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the brush tool. Now, the brush tool is the tool that you know probably the most about because you use it all the time, right? I tend to stick with my default brushes, but if you would like to download more brushes, it's also another really easy thing, but you do need an account with MediBang. All you have to do is on your brush window, you can click this little cloud with an arrow. If you click that, a new window will open up and suddenly all of these extra brushes will pop up. Right now for me it says login required because I don't have I don't have an account because I don't really need to download any extra brushes. But if you would like to download any more special effects brushes, then all you really need to do is log in. You can select all these extra brushes, download them, and they will pop up into your menu over here. Nice and easy. Let's say that I wanted to blend in Kirby here more, right? I wanted to, you know, make him a little more blended, right? So rather than this hard shading, I wanted him to have a little bit more blended features. So there's a really easy way to do that. There's a couple ways actually. You could go for the airbrush and just turn down the opacity and blend like that, you know, just continuously holding Alt and blending in with this. However, I find that the airbrush looks a little bit messy. You can use it, but it is a little bit of a harder tool to get used to. One way that I really like to blend is with something a little more textured. So I like the G pen. I have opacity by pressure turned on in the bottom left. You can kind of see it there. And based on how hard I press, that's what determines how harshly it blends in and how high the opacity is and whatnot. So you can just continually, again, the shortcut for the eyedropper is Alt, and that's what you would be clicking back and forth. Ideally, you would have a tablet with some kind of express key, or you have a shortcut somewhere that you can click continuously. I use a Cintiq, so I have one of my buttons programmed to Alt, and I can just continually blend this in. You know, it's all up to you generally which brush you would like to use. You may just find a blender brush that may work a little bit better for you, but this is kind of the manual way to do it if you don't have any custom brushes. So just continuing to blend back and forth. Right, so you can hard shaded Kirby, soft shaded Kirby. Let's say that I wanted to change something here. Right, let's say that I wanted to erase something. And if you're like me and you have a double-sided pen, then the back of your pen will automatically go to the eraser tool. But unfortunately, even though I've drawn with a soft brush, my eraser will always be hard. It doesn't matter what brush you have selected over here, your eraser will always be a hard edge, right? Which gets really annoying over time. So what you can do instead of choosing the eraser is if you go back to your brush, up at the top here you'll see that there are actually 3 squares. So there's your foreground, your background, which you can switch between just by clicking that little square, but underneath it there's this checkerboard looking square. If you click on that, that's called your subtract. So up on top here, these are your additive colors, this is your subtractive. And what that does is it now creates whatever brush you have selected, now it will subtract from what you've already drawn. So, let's make that nice and big again. Now you have a nice and soft eraser, right? Some people have accidentally turned this on while they were working on whatever they had initially. And they go, oh no, I can't draw with color anymore. What do I do? It's nice and easy. You just go back and select the color again. You can switch between subtract and add. So if you ever wanted a corresponding eraser, so say if I was working with the G pen, this is another textured brush that I quite like working with. But then my eraser is too hard. And what I can do instead is just switch my brush to subtract, and now I have a nice corresponding eraser. Now let's say that you want to draw a straight line, right? You're tired of constantly, like, you turn up your correction to like 38 and you're like, oh my god, I can't draw this straight line. But let's say that you really want to draw like a bunch of straight lines and you're kind of struggling and you can't really get it right because you can't move your pen around properly. So all you really need to do is draw a little dot down, right? And if you hold shift, now you'll see this line that pops up, right? Coming from that dot that you've just drawn. If you just click somewhere, now you've drawn a straight line. You can do this ad infinitum until you want to move on again. And that's a nice and easy way to get perfectly straight lines. Up at the top here, you'll see a bunch of different shapes that you can draw with. So if you want to draw a box, you just gotta have the box selected. You can click and drag to change the size of the boxes. They have circles here as well. There's also this one that's in the shape of a pentagon. But when you start drawing, you click somewhere, and then it looks like you have a straight line. But really, you're putting down all the different corners. Every time you click, a new corner is put down. And if you're done, double click on the same spot, and you'll have your polygon, whatever shape you're doing. This one will create curved lines. So let's click somewhere, say up top here first. And then if I click down here, now, based on where I put the next point, you'll see it affects the curve a little bit. And you just gotta go back to where you started, double click, and it closes off this rounded shape. And with this zigzaggy one that's up here, this one is just creating open-ended straight lines. It's the same thing as if you clicked shift, but this one's just a little bit harder to control, so I don't really recommend working with it. And this one is just straight lines, if you want to draw straight lines. Another question that we get asked is, how do you put in another image into MediBang? Now, it's very easy. It isn't, quite as apparent because it's not directly on the window, but it works pretty well the exact same as any other, copy paste situation. So right now I have a royalty-free image of a galaxy, on my clipboard. So let's say that I wanted to put Kirby in this galaxy, right? I want to put it as a background, so I have him out, no background. This is the merged version behind him. Let's say that I want to put Kirby in outer space, so I have it on my clipboard. I hit Control-C. Now all I have to do is hit Control-V. And now the image of the galaxy is in here. I can hit Control-T to kind of finagle it. Hit OK. Let's move that Kirby layer above it. And now Kirby is in space. If I really wanted to add some extra atmosphere to him, put a little shadow on him, just to match the Milky Way a little bit. Alright, but it is nice and easy, right? You can continually, whenever you paste things into here, it will automatically make a new layer. You can also, instead of, just hitting Control-V, you can also go up to the top, hit File, and you can use Open Image as Layer. If you have it saved, a new window will pop up and you'll be able to insert an image from your own files. You can also, if you wanted to open up in a new file, you can go to File, New via Clipboard, and it'll create a completely new file for you that is based on whatever image you have last saved in your clipboard. So just in case if you wanted a whole new window, you can have a whole new window for your file as well. Another thing that has been brought up a couple times is to go more in depth into our selection tools off to the side here, because there are quite a few and they can kind of get confusing if you've never worked with them before, like which ones should you use when, and which ones, you know, what's more efficient to use for certain things. Let's start with this first one again, so I'll talk more about the just regular selection tool, the top one up here. So this one selects in shapes, so you know the default will most likely be rectangle, which is what you get most of the time. You can also have an ellipse, which is just like an oval or a circle. So these are, you know, they're quick selections, but I don't recommend using them all the time, just because, you know, if you do use them, then you are stuck on either, you know, the circular axis of it like an ellipse, or you're stuck on the rectangle tool. The polygon tool is one where you can tap around, double tap at the end to close off the entire polygon. So say if you wanted to select like a star or something, right? You can just keep tapping to get you the shape of this star, and then once you reach that final point, double tap and it'll create the shape for you, and then deselect with Control D. So this next one is the lasso. The lasso is usually the artist's favorite quick selection, because you can just draw in whatever shape you want, right? It's like working with a pen. Right, but lasso should really, I find that it should really only be your quick selection. You can select more than one time if you hold down shift. So say if I select this little section of Kirby right now, right, but I'm like, okay, let's just close this off. I could hold shift and continue to add on to that selection as much as I want. Right? So I can continually do this if I really want to. If you want to deselect something, you can also hit Control, and that can, you know, deselect some areas. So Shift is to add on to your selection, Control is to deselect. But if you really need precise, like you need to get right up onto those pixels, right? What I would recommend using is the Select Pen, because the Select Pen allows you to mimic, you know, the way that a brush would go, so you can get right up onto those pixels that you really need to select from. You don't have to worry about hitting Control or Shift or anything like that. Let's actually, yeah, let's say I want to select half of Kirby. And the great thing about the Select Pen as well is the Select Erase. You can change the size of that, so if I go a little bit over Kirby, I can just erase these very small pixels very, very finely. The Lasso tool doesn't really allow for something this fine. Like it does, but it takes a lot of finagling. Right, and let's say that I do that, right, and all I need to do is select that brush again, and now that area is selected. And if I want to go back, I go, maybe I want to select even more of that. I can literally just go back to the Select Pen and continue to edit the same selection. Another cool thing about the Select Pen in MediBang, the reason why I prefer the Select Pen over the Lasso in terms of precise selection, is say that I want to have Kirby, you know, like in this vast space. So let's say I want to select an area around Kirby to kind of, you know, not completely select him, but have the little light glow of this color still around him. The cool thing with the Select Pen is you can change which brush you use for the Select Pen. So say I want, like, you know, that airbrushy look, so I'm going to change the Select Pen to the airbrush, and I can have this nice kind of like a soft selection around Kirby. And the cool thing is if I choose the Select Pen, it retains that softness around it. So let me just hit Control X, Control Shift V, or Control V, Control D, and now there's like a little glow around him because the Select Pen retained the softness that it kept. So that's what's nice about the Select Pen, is you can have a different kind of brush, right? Different textured selections, which is really nice. Now, the clipping mask is, you know, it basically just means that it has clipped the layer above to the layer below. And let's say that I want, you know, another layer on top where I can, you know, draw inside the lines, but my original layer won't be affected. So if I turn this layer off, right, if I were to draw on the layer above, right, unclipped, it's not, you know, inside the whole layer, it's completely separate, right? If I were to just use the alpha lock, so protect alpha, so I turn that on, you know, now it's all on one layer, and it's a little bit harder to navigate through. That's why clipping masks are so important. So let's say I turn on the clipping mask, and I draw on these pink lines here. If I turn off this layer, then the layer that is clipped will also turn off, but I can also move this around separately. So I can turn off this layer, and it doesn't affect the layer below. Now let's say that I wanted to create another layer with a clipping mask on it. Unfortunately, this is the same with every single digital program that I have seen. With clipping mask, you can only have one clipping mask per layer. What that basically just means is this layer is not clipped onto the one below. This layer is clipped onto the original black circle. So if I were to do another set of lines, it's clipped to the black circle, not to the pink lines. But they're both separate and are both attached to the black circle. So you can have multiple layers of clipping masks within, clipped to one thing, but you cannot have it so then this layer is clipped to the pink lines and this layer would be clipped to these blue lines, blah blah blah, right? They would all have to be clipped to the original layer. So that's basically just how you'd have to kind of work wisely with it. But let's say that I'm done with all this, right? Let's say that I have all these layers and I'm like, oh cool, I want to merge all these now. So let me create a folder first. When you create a folder, and if you hold shift, select all of these layers, you can click and drag them into this folder. Now if I close it, you know, I hide it, now everything is within that single folder. So let's say that I want to merge this entire thing now, right? All I have to do is hit Control C and then hit Control V. And now it has created a whole new layer that has merged all of the layers that are within the folder, right? Generally, I like to keep all of these other layers before as well, just in case if I make a mistake with this one. Another thing I didn't really go over that strongly was gradients. Now, gradients have, you know, there's a couple ones that I said you would have up here. So there's the linear version, which, you know, is just a straight line where the gradient happens. You can switch it to circular as well, which means that it radiates out from a single spot. It's a circle. But next to it, you'll see there's a type, right? So you can either have foreground to background, you can either have foreground to transparent, or transparent to foreground. So let's say that I have foreground to transparent, right? My foreground color is the one that is always selected, right? It's the color on top. So let's switch to this blue. Now I am only doing gradients from my foreground color, right? It goes from foreground to transparent. Where I click, it starts at foreground and it goes to more transparent afterwards. So the inverse of that, transparent, is wherever I click starts out as transparent and then it goes out to the foreground color afterwards. But unfortunately, it can only ever be two-toned. If you want multiple colors for gradients, I guess you could do 3. So say if I wanted 1, 2, I could switch it to foreground to transparent. Let's say I wanted this third color in here. I can click and drag and now there's a third color in there. Another thing I didn't talk about on this program was the text tool. Now the reason for that is because the text tools are pretty finicky on this program and I don't recommend it. But if you are really in the need of text, then you can try to use this one if you'd like. The thing with the text tool is it's the little T off to the side here. If you click somewhere with it, then a new window will pop up and it says edit text. The issue with this is that you have to edit everything within this window and then you can paste it on. There's no way to edit it afterwards. So let's just set a bunch of things randomly here. So let's say I want the text to be size 48. I can make the text color whatever I want. Alright, let's just type in a key smash, it's fine. Hit OK. And now this whole text window is over here. You can't change it afterwards. You're stuck with it, pretty much. If you liked what you saw, make sure to leave a like on this video, comment down below to tell me what you'd like to see me draw next, and hit subscribe so that you never miss an upload. And hey, we art nerds gotta stick together, so join our little art community with the links down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!